Welcome to TV3. On this week's episode, we'll be covering street fighting robots, the curse of P. Bandai, how they ruined the build strike, and of course, answering your comments and questions in the feedback section. Now, unfortunately, there will not be a new purchases section on this week's episode as I spent all my disposable income on non-toy related items. I mean, sometimes this kind of stuff happens, and this is one of those weeks. Nevertheless, I'm always willing to talk toys, so let's get on with the news. First up in the news is a bit out of left field, and that is that Street Fighter 2 are doing a collaboration with Transformers to give us Transformers Street Fighter figures. Now, these are actually just Transformers repainted to look like some of the Street Fighter characters. There's going to be 4 of them in total. We're going to have Ryu out of Optimus, we're going to have Bison out of Megatron, Ken out of Hot Rod, and Chun-Li out of RC. Now, these are going to be sold in 2 packs, so the Ryu and Bison are going to be 1 pack together, and it's going to cost about 12,000 yen, and the Ken and Chun-Li are the other pack for about 8,000 yen. I personally think that the Ryu and the Bison do not look all that great. I mean, besides the colors, I don't think they actually look all that awesome. However, the Ken and Chun-Li are totally my jam, especially that Ken. And I'll tell you what, it's the fact that the Ken has the Street Fighter 2 logo on his spoiler that has completely sold me. I don't know why, but I just love the way it turns out. As for the Chun-Li, well, I never noticed how thick RC's thighs were, and that's perfectly befitting of this character, so I can't say no to that either. Unfortunately, these are Takara Mall exclusive items, which makes them a little bit pricier to get, and also a little bit harder to get, so bear that in mind. Nevertheless, I'm never one to turn down a cool idea, even if the final product isn't the greatest out there. Alright, the rest of the news this week is going to be Gundam related, so if you're not really into Gundam, I suggest you just skip forward. Now, there's going to be 2 categories here. There's P Bandai and non-P Bandai, so we'll start with the cool announcements first, which are P Bandai. First up is the Master Grade Astray Turn Red. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the Astray, nor do I know anything about this version of the Gundam, but I will say this one looks awesome just for how ridiculous everything is on it. Its V-fin is stupid long, the sword is stupid long. It just looks super impractical, and I kind of think that's the appeal behind this model kit. There's not a lot of details beyond the announcement of it, so just hold on tight and I'm sure we'll cover this in a future episode. Next up is the HGUC Gyon Krieger, and I will fully admit I have no idea what this is or where it's from, but I do love it. First of all, those colors, you can never go wrong with black and purple, and secondly, I love the sort of like gothic knight aesthetic that's going on here. It just looks really neat. High grade, 2,000 yen. Comes out in January. Again, P Bandai exclusive, which is unfortunate, but it's something I'm going to keep my eye on because this is definitely a very cool mobile suit. Next up on the P Bandai list of exclusives is the Perfect Grade Banshee Norn Final Battle Edition. So this is, of course, just the Banshee Norn with a green frame, and for most people, I can totally see this being as the Banshee to get. I mean, it's the final one in the series. It's probably, I don't know if it's the most iconic one or the most recognizable one, but I can definitely see this be a fan favorite. It's a shame, again, that it's a P Bandai exclusive. It's not really something that I would pick up, as I personally love the look of the original Banshee Norn with the all-gold frame. If you like the Banshee Norn in his final battle frame, then here it is, it's finally coming for you. And the last P Bandai exclusive, and personally the one that interested me the most, is the announcement of the real grade Zaku Shin Matsunaga 2 from MSV. Now, this is basically a white Zaku. A couple weeks ago, we had the announcement and I believe release of the Johnny Ridden Zaku real grade, which I thought was pretty cool, but this one takes the cake as the coolest real grade Zaku on the market right now. Of course, the big draw here is that it is white. Everyone loves a white Zaku, right? It's just super cool. He's going to come with all these weapons. Unfortunately, it is based on the original real grade Zaku, which I don't rate very highly. I mean, it's functional, but personally, it definitely is showing its age. It's an old kit, and it's one of the first real grades, so I don't know how well this is going to hold up by today's standards. Nevertheless, it's a white Zaku. It's super cool. What's there not to love? Alright, now let's move on to the Gundams that everybody can buy without any hassle or issue. First up is the announcement of the real grade Banshee Norn. Now, this is just the regular Banshee Norn, gold frame, real grade, regular release for about 3,500 yen. Not too many details beyond this single image, but hey, having built the real grade unicorn and thinking that that is probably the best Gundam that has been released this year, easily the best real grade kit, I have no doubt that this is also going to be very, very good. The other notable Gundam announcement this week has been the reveal of the high grade BF Build Strike Galaxy Cosmos. Now, I love the Build Strike, but this is the one that has completely ruined the Build Strike for me. And it all has to do with the Peacock backpack. I mean, what is that? I understand that a lot of Gundam fans have this fascination with huge encompassing backpack arms and whatnot. And hey, I look at the Strike Freedom and such and I think that's a popular kit. I understand why they've gone for that similar design aesthetic. However, these are just white triangles sticking out of the backside of this Gundam. It looks dumb. It looks like my first scratch build. Like it's awful, and I don't know why they went back to using the original Build Strike gun. I will say the actual robot, like the details and upgrades they've put on the core of the Build Strike, the shoulders and the chest, as well as I believe the leg upgrades. I'm into that. It's just the backpack. Like, I don't know if it needs more color, if it needs more depth or a bit more weight to it, but it is not doing it for me. I think this looks awful. And I say all these hateful things, but you know I'm going to buy it. And that's my problem. I need to stop, but I know I won't. So yeah, I hate it. I'll buy it. End of story. It's another Build Fighters kit, so there you go. Now, like I said, no new purchases this week, but we've got tons of questions to answer, so let's get on it. First one comes from Willy Weasel. What's the thickest toy you own? Hashtag love for thick boys. Okay, so when I first read this question, I thought it would be an easy answer because I have a ton of just female figures that I could just easily list up there as being super THICC. But I read the hashtag and it said love for thick boys, and that made the question so much harder because now I gotta limit myself to just male dudes or male robots. And well, I narrowed a list down, and the first one that came to mind was Transformers Masterpiece Ultra Magnus, because that dude is quite wide. But then the more I looked at him, the more I thought, well, that is what he is. He's just wide. He's just a box. He's not necessarily what I would consider thick, if you know what I'm saying. So going off from there, I figured, well, I do have this vinyl soapbox version of Gurren Lagann, which is pretty round and pretty thick, but then it's not really a toy, right? And I guess the answer is it's the thickest toy I own. So the last thing that came to mind, and this has to be the winner, it is Sentinel Cross T-Rex Black Getter. One look at this boy and you know he's thick. I mean, look at that gut. Look at those thighs. That dude has tuna cans for limbs, and I love it. Jonas Aguila wants to know MG Barbatos or MG Build Burning, if ever. Which one would you like to have? Okay, so this one is a bit tricky because Master Grade Barbatos, I don't feel like we need it. I think that the 1 to 100 kits are perfectly fine as is, which then I guess would default me to the Build Burning. The thing about the Build Burning is I hate the Build Burning. That's my least favorite of the Build Fighter suits. So, like from a design perspective, I just hate that thing. So I wouldn't want that either. So I guess a Barbatos then, right? I mean, even though I don't think we need it, I guess Barbatos it is. I mean, I know the fans are clamoring for one, so why not? CJ asks, what do you think about the Mystic Force Megazord? The Mystic Force Megazord, I had to look this one up. I like the idea of it, but I do not actually like the way it looks on screen. That said, its counterpart to Sentai, I forget what it's called, but it's Magi Ranger. There was a toy done by Bandai under the Super Robot Shogoken line where they changed up the aesthetics of it to have it fall in line with a traditional Super Robot, and I gotta say, the Sentai version of that toy looks phenomenal. I mean, I could do without the Pope hat, but otherwise, the way that that toy looks is incredible. Frosty McMuffins asks, have you ever considered getting to 1/6 figures? I know they're overly expensive, but Hot Toys make some very good figures. Yes, I always consider going into 1/6. The thing that holds me back is not necessarily the price, it's the fact that those toys, you can't really do anything with them, right? I mean, they're just big dolls, and giant dolls, no matter how great they look to the people or the characters they're trying to represent, they just stand there on your shelf and you can't do anything, because the problem with the 1/6 figures is you're always worried about how, if you do anything with them, they're gonna get wrecked over time, and the appeal to those figures has always just been their likeness, not necessarily what they can do as toys. And I am a toy collector. I buy toys because I like to play with them. I like to see what they can do. I like to interact with them. I don't buy toys to put on a shelf, right? And that's what the 1/6 market is all about. They buy stuff so you can put it on a shelf and admire it, and done. And I totally understand the appeal and why people do that, but that's just not the collector I am. Kazuya Kanzaki asks, "Why do you sound so sarcastic?" Probably because I am. And finally, Tome Philo asks, "Hello Type V3, if you could choose the next Fate Figma that would be made, would you prefer A. Saber of Red, B. Berserker of Black, C. Archer of Red, D. Caster of Red, or E. Astolfo?" I would choose X. Tosaka's Defenseless. And that brings us to the end of this week's episode of TV3. This week's show was, of course, a little bit shorter, but nevertheless, I hope you guys still found it entertaining. As always, if there's anything you want me to discuss further, or if there's anything that I didn't mention that you do want me to talk about in a future installment of the show, feel free to leave your comment in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to get to it. Anyways, I'm out of here. See you guys next week.
Okay, so I lied. I did get something.